Will one of you fight me? Israelites, you win! And the Philistines will be your slaves!
In the heart of ancient Judea, amidst the rolling hills and rugged terrain, lies a tale of epic proportions, a story that has captured the imagination of generations and crossed the boundaries of time itself. The tale of Goliath and his brothers unfolds with all the drama and intrigue of a timeless epic. But who really was Goliath, and who were his mysterious brothers, whose very names evoke both fear and fascination? Join us as we unpack the true story of Goliath and his family. A towering challenge on the battlefield. In 2 Samuel 21, we encounter a figure of immense recognition, Goliath. Known as the towering champion from the Philistine camp, his legend has echoed through the ages. Goliath of Gath stands at a staggering 6 cubits in a span. Now, cubits and spans might sound strange to us, but in simpler terms, this giant stood at least 9 feet 9 inches tall. The sheer presence of such a figure on the battlefield evoked terror. But it wasn't just his height that made Goliath formidable. Clad in an imposing array of bronze armor, he was practically unbeatable. From his bronze helmet to his coat of scale armor, weighing a hefty 5,000 shekels, every inch of his body was protected. His legs were shielded by bronze shin protectors, and a bronze javelin hung between his shoulders. And let's not forget his weapon of choice, a spear with a blade head weighing a whopping 600 shekels of iron. Imagine Goliath moving forward with a shield bearer beside him, holding a massive shield for extra protection. A huge man, covered in armor, with someone holding a shield next to him, ready to take on anyone brave enough to confront him. On the battlefield, Goliath taunted the armies of Israel, daring them to send forth a champion to face him. His challenge spread across the land. Choose a man for yourselves and have him come down to me. If he can fight with me and kill me, then we will become your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then shall you become our servants and serve us. Consider the audacity, the sheer confidence of this towering figure as he stood before the armies of Israel, a giant among men. Truly, facing such a giant in combat would be a daunting task for anyone. Reflect on the spectacle, the presence, and the preparation of Goliath as he stood ready to decide the fate of nations with his prowess on the battlefield. In the book of Samuel, chapter 17, we find Goliath, a champion representing the Philistine forces, issuing a bold challenge known as representative combat. This meant that instead of full-scale warfare, each side would select a single warrior to fight on their behalf. The victor's side would claim victory, while the defeated side would face utter defeat. Goliath, standing tall and confident, repeated his challenge day after day for a staggering 40 days, flaunting his size and strength. Meanwhile, in the hills of Judea near Bethlehem, a young shepherd named David tended to his father's sheep, unaware of the conflict between the Israelites and the Philistines. David's father, concerned for his 3 eldest sons serving in Saul's army, sent David on an errand to check on them. David, obedient to his father's request, set out with provisions for his brothers. As David arrived at the Israelite camp, he encountered the soldiers preparing for battle and heard the resounding war cry. Curious, David approached the front lines to greet his brothers, leaving his belongings with a keeper. Suddenly, a commotion arose as Goliath, the imposing Philistine champion, once again challenged the Israelites. Witnessing the fear and retreat of his comrades, David was filled with anger. Despite never having seen Goliath before, David was outraged by the giant's blasphemy against the God of Israel. In a moment of courage, David questioned the reward for defeating Goliath, expressing his disbelief at the Philistines' insolence. The men around him affirmed that great honor and rewards awaited the one who could conquer Goliath and silence his insults against the armies of the living God. David meets with King Saul and offers to confront Goliath, the giant who is intimidating the Israelite army. Saul doubts David's ability, citing his youth and lack of experience in battle. However, David recounts how he bravely defended his father's sheep from predators like lions and bears, showing his courage and determination. David trusts in the Lord's protection, declaring that just as he was saved from wild animals, he will also be saved from Goliath. Saul then offers David his armor, but it feels too heavy and unfamiliar to David. So he opts for his simple shepherd's tools, a sling and stones. He approaches Goliath, equipped only with these humble items. Goliath, mocking David's appearance and weaponry, threatens to feed him to the birds and wild animals. Undeterred, David confronts Goliath in the name of the Lord, expressing his faith that God will grant him victory, triumph, faith, and loyalty in ancient battles. In a dramatic moment, David uses his sling to hurl a stone at Goliath's forehead, sending the giant to the ground. David then finishes the job by beheading Goliath with his own sword. The Philistine army, witnessing their champion's defeat, flees in terror. David's triumph over Goliath demonstrates that victory does not always come from strength or weapons, but from faith and courage. Despite facing a seemingly insurmountable foe, David's trust in God and his resourcefulness enable him to emerge victorious. In 1 Samuel chapter 17:47, 51, the defeat of Goliath marks a decisive moment in the battle between the Philistines and the Israelites. When the Philistines realize their champion is dead, they retreat hastily. The Israelite and Judean soldiers, emboldened by their victory, pursue the Philistines all the way to the valley entrance and the gates of Ekron. Along the way, many Philistines are fatally wounded, scattered from Sharam to Gath and Ekron. The Israelites return from their pursuit, seizing the opportunity to plunder the Philistine camp. Following his triumph, David brings Goliath's head to Jerusalem as a symbol of his victory. However, he decides not to keep Goliath's weapons, choosing instead to store them in his tent. The story of David and Goliath is widely known and celebrated for its themes of bravery, faith, and overcoming seemingly impossible odds. The identity of Goliath has sparked debate among scholars, with some suggesting he belonged to a race called the Nephilim, while others argue he was a Rephite. The Philistines' origins are also subject to speculation, with many believing they descended from a group known as the Anakim. Some researchers propose that Goliath's towering stature could have been the result of a genetic condition like familial acromegaly or gigantism. After Goliath's defeat, his brothers continue to fight alongside the Philistines, facing off against the Israelites in subsequent battles. In one such battle, Elhanan, a Bethlehemite, slays Goliath's brother, who wields a spear shaft similar to a weaver's beam. These encounters with Goliath's kin serve as reminders of the ongoing conflict between the Israelites and the Philistines, showcasing the resilience and bravery of both sides amidst the chaos of war. In 2 Samuel 21, we encounter remarkable figures, including Lahmi-Saph, Ishbi-Benob, and an unnamed individual with 6 fingers and toes. Despite their lesser-known names compared to Goliath, each of them had a story to tell. They were not just enemies to the Israelites, but also to themselves, battling with their inner struggles. These warriors wielded mighty weapons, embodying incredible strength and power. Following Goliath's defeat by young David, Ishbi-Benob, a formidable warrior with familial ties to Goliath, sought to avenge his kin. Armed with a hefty spear and a new sword, Ishbi-Benob aimed to take down David, who was growing weary in battle. However, in his determination to defeat David, Ishbi-Benob forgot to consider the power of God. As a result, he and his allies met their end on that very day. This tale teaches us that those who oppose God's followers may appear strong and confident, but ultimately they cannot withstand the might of God. At the crucial moment, God intervened to rescue David, demonstrating his power and protection over his faithful. Even in the face of formidable opposers, God's strength prevails, offering redemption and deliverance to those who trust in him. In 2 Samuel 21:17, Abishai, David's nephew, comes to his uncle's rescue by defeating a Philistine opponent. This act of bravery earns Abishai recognition among David's men, who vow to protect him from further battles to preserve the strength of Israel. Abishai's loyalty to David is evident throughout his life. He accompanies David on daring missions, including one to retrieve the king's spear and water jug from Saul's camp. During Absalom's rebellion, Abishai leads a division of David's forces and holds a prominent position among the renowned warriors known as the Mighty Men. In 2 Samuel 23:18, Abishai is credited with killing 300 men with his spear, earning him a place among David's elite fighters. Despite facing huge odds, Abishai's courage and loyalty never waver. This story highlights the importance of timing and divine assistance in times of need. Despite the bravery of individuals like Abishai, it's ultimately God's support that ensures victory. David's followers recognized the need to protect their leader from unnecessary risks, highlighting the value of caution and care for those in positions of leadership. Abishai's loyalty and friendship towards David exemplify the bonds of friendship and sacrifice among comrades in arms. In 1 Chronicles 11, we encounter other mighty warriors of Israel, including Kachai the Hassite, Eli the Ite, and Lami, who was none other than the brother of the infamous Goliath. The giants in glory in biblical warfare. Lami was known for wielding a massive spear, so thick that it was compared to a weaver's beam, emphasizing its terrifying size and strength. In 1 Chronicles 20:5, we learn that there was a war again with the Philistines, and Elhanan, the son of Jair, bravely defeated Lami, Goliath's brother, whose spear was similarly likened to a weaver's beam. To understand the significance of this comparison, we need to imagine a weaver's beam, a sturdy cylindrical piece of wood used in weaving to keep warp threads apart. This beam ensured that the threads remained stretched and organized, allowing for the smooth weaving of fabric. When the Bible mentions a weaver's beam in relation to a spear, it highlights the spear's thickness and strength, contrasting it with the more common slender spears used by average individuals. This narrative illustrates that Israel could triumph over great enemies even without the presence of David. These brave warriors achieved remarkable feats, showing that new leaders would rise to guide the next generation once the previous leaders faded away. The legendary victory over Goliath likely contributed to stories of David's prowess and conflicting role in the Philistine camps, inspiring future generations with tales of courage and triumph. David was a constant annoyance to his enemies, particularly Lami, who sought to defeat him, but ended up meeting the same fate as his brother, Goliath. However, it's important to note that Lami wasn't just fighting against any ordinary person. He was challenging someone who had the backing of God. Although we don't hear much about Lami, his story serves as a reminder to the Israelites that their true strength came from their faith in God, not from their numbers or weapons. Another tale in the Bible involves a nameless giant from Gath, a city known for its fearsome inhabitants. This giant from Gath, with 24 fingers and toes, faced Jonathan, one of David's mighty men and David's brother's son. When the giant taunted Israel, Jonathan stepped forward and put him to death. This event, although not directly naming the giant, teaches us a valuable lesson about humility and the power of faith. It demonstrates that even the mightiest opponents can be overcome through courage and trust in God. In the text, we encounter 4 individuals described as Rapha, a term meaning giants in the English Standard Version. This term is linked to RAF, and the Bible emphasizes this connection when discussing groups of giants, Raphaim in plural and singular giants, Rapha like Saf. It's noted in the scriptures that the Anakim were considered part of the Raphaim, as seen in Deuteronomy 2:11 and 21. This association makes sense considering that Goliath and his relatives are linked to both groups. Despite being formidable fighters, Goliath's brothers, like their kin, couldn't overcome the people of God. Each battle against these giants reinforced the Israelites' faith, echoing David's declaration before defeating Goliath in 1 Samuel 17:47, "The battle is the Lord's." The brothers of Goliath became part of a larger narrative, serving not just as defeated foes, but as eternal reminders that even giants fall when they oppose God's will. Giants in the Bible are often depicted as enemies of God's people, and they are ultimately defeated. Their existence posed a challenge and tested the faith of those who relied on God. Goliath's brothers symbolize the recurring challenges people face in life. Just as David and his men confronted multiple giants, we too must be ready to face ongoing obstacles. The lesson here is one of resilience and persistent vigilance, highlighting the power of faith and courage. David's triumph over Goliath and the defeat of Goliath's brothers underscore the strength found in faith and bravery. Inspired by David's earlier victory, his men likely drew from the same well of faith and boldness to overcome seemingly overwhelming challenges. David's legacy extends beyond his accomplishments. It includes the lessons he imparted and the example he set for future generations. By paving the way for Solomon's success through his victories, David demonstrated the importance of defeating present opponents for the benefit of future generations. Thus, our current successes not only benefit us in the present, but also provide valuable lessons and opportunities for future generations to thrive. Genesis chapter 6 captures the attention of many Bible readers due to the mysterious figures referred to as the sons of God and the Nephilim. In this passage, we learn that as humanity multiplied on the earth and daughters were born, the sons of God noticed that these daughters were beautiful and took them as wives as they pleased. This action troubled the Lord, who decided that mankind's days would be limited to 120 years. During this time, the Nephilim, described as mighty men of old, were on the earth, resulting from the union between the sons of God and human women. However, the wickedness of humanity greatly troubled the Lord, and he regretted creating mankind. He decided to wipe out humanity along with animals, crawling creatures, and birds due to his sorrow over their evil ways. But how did wickedness come to be widespread across the land? Unraveling the genesis of evil. The problem arose from the ungodly marriages between the sons of God and human daughters, especially during a period of rapid population growth caused by the long lifespans in the pre-flood world. The Bible indicates that these sons of God chose wives freely, leading to Satan's attempt to corrupt mankind's genetic pool. Satan, directly or indirectly, sent his angels to intermarry with human women, aiming to pollute humanity's genetic purity with satanic corruption. This scheme resembled a genetic pathogen, potentially rendering the human race unfit to bring forth the promised Messiah, as mentioned in Genesis 3:15. The Savior could not be born from a mother possessed by demons. If Satan succeeded in infecting the entire human race, the arrival of the deliverer would be impossible. Humanity had become so corrupt that God decided to start anew with Noah and his sons, saving them from the flood while confining the demons responsible for corruption, ensuring they could not repeat their actions. This decision signaled that God's patience with mankind had reached its limit. As stated in the verse, "My spirit shall not strive with man forever." God's intention was never for us to remain fixed on our stubborn defiance indefinitely. This signals a critical juncture in our turning away from God, reaching a point where simply returning as if nothing happened is not possible. God's patience has its limits, and there will come a time when he decides enough is enough. Therefore, we must make a decision today, rather than postponing it to an uncertain tomorrow, to respond to Jesus' call. We cannot be certain that God will extend his invitation again on another day. Interestingly, it's noted that God's patience lasted for 120 years, coinciding with the timing of the flood that occurred after this announcement. During this period, there were giants on the earth, the offspring of the unnatural union between the sons of God and human daughters. However, it's important to note that there were also individuals of remarkable size before and after the flood. Those before the flood were known for their evil because they were born from a bad connection and were famous for their wrongdoing. This highlights the pervasive nature of sin during Noah's time, where every aspect of human nature was tainted by evil. Jesus himself likened the conditions of the world before his coming to those before the flood, indicating similarities in moral decay and disregard for God's ways. Unfortunately, many people overlook this comparison, both before Christ's birth and in the early days of the church. Initially, believers interpreted the sons of God as spiritual beings or angels who married human women, giving birth to giants known as the Nephilim. However, this interpretation is less common today, as modern sensibilities often reject supernatural explanations. While many Christians accept miraculous events like Jesus' birth and resurrection, they may struggle to believe in giants born from human and spiritual unions. In Genesis 6:6, we learn that the Lord felt sorry or regretful about the state of humanity. This shows that God has deep emotions and cares deeply about us. He loves us greatly and wants what's best for us. When we do wrong, it hurts him because he sees the harm it causes. The verse says that God was sorry he made humans because they were so sinful and caused so much trouble. It's like a parent feeling sad when their child behaves badly. God had created humans to be like him, to do good and reflect his greatness. But now many people were doing the opposite, and it made him sad. This raises questions about why people were acting this way. Some think it's because good and bad lines mixed, or maybe because humans got involved with spiritual beings. Questions have also been raised about who the sons of God really were. The mystery of the sons of God. There are three main perspectives on who the sons of God mentioned in Genesis were. Some think they were angels who fell from heaven. Others believe they were powerful human leaders. And then there's the idea that they were the good descendants of Seth marrying the sinful descendants of Cain. The argument for the angels theory is strong. In the Old Testament, the term sons of God often refers to angels. For example, Job 1:6 and Job 2:1 talk about the sons of God presenting themselves before the Lord, and even Satan, who is a fallen angel, is among them. Job 38:7 also mentions the sons of God, referring to angelic beings. Another reason is that Genesis 6:1-2 contrasts the sons of God with humans, suggesting they are not human beings but something else, possibly angels. In Genesis 6:1, it says that people started to increase in number and they had daughters. The word man here refers to all people, as we see in Genesis 5:1-2. The sons of God mentioned are different from regular people, as they are contrasted with them. These sons of God married the daughters of all people, indicating they were not human. This suggests they were some kind of non-human beings. The context also suggests that the Nephilim mentioned in Genesis 6:4 were the offspring of these spirit beings and humans. The Nephilim, or the fallen ones, are described as mysterious figures, mighty men of old, renowned for their strength and influence. The text doesn't explain how they came to be, but it says they were on the earth in those days and even afterward. The question arises, how did these famous and powerful figures, the Nephilim, come into existence? The text doesn't provide a clear answer, but it links their appearance with the intermarriage between the sons of God and the daughters of humans. This suggests that the Nephilim may have been the result of the union between spirit beings and humans. Jude likely interprets Genesis 6:1-4 as referring to angels marrying humans. In verse 6, Jude mentions angels who left their rightful place in heaven. He might be alluding to the angels described in Genesis 6:1-4 who chose to dwell on earth. This perspective supports the idea that the sons of God mentioned in Genesis were angels who married human women, leading to the birth of the Nephilim. While this interpretation may seem strange to us today, it's no more unusual than many other events in the Bible. Reality often surpasses fiction, and God's universe operates differently from what we might expect. In this context, the sons of God are better understood as either rebellious angels or demon-possessed men, while the daughters of men refer to human women. Jude verse 6 also describes God's response to these fallen angels. In 1 Peter 3:19-20, it's mentioned that Jesus proclaimed victory over them on the cross. During Noah's time, when God decided to cleanse the earth of this corruption, he chose to start anew with Noah, who found favor in his sight. Despite the widespread wickedness, Noah's righteousness spared him and his family from the impending judgment. Noah didn't earn grace, he discovered it. Grace isn't something we deserve, but it's something available to all of us. Back then, just like today, grace abounds even in sin. God called Noah to construct the ark along with his sons. Noah was described as a righteous man, living blamelessly among his generation. This description sets Noah apart, emphasizing his resistance to the corrupting influence of Satan, who sought to taint humanity's lineage. Noah's righteousness stemmed from his faith. After the flood, as soon as he left the ark, Noah offered sacrifices to God, demonstrating his devotion and gratitude. Noah's three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, played significant roles in the post-flood world. Through them, God would rebuild human civilization amidst the earth's corruption and violence. Due to the widespread corruption and violence, God warned Noah of his impending judgment upon the wicked, which would extend to the earth itself. Despite this severe judgment, God's grace shone through by preserving Noah and his family as a remnant. After the flood, there are hints that fallen angels once again committed sins, but on a smaller scale. When Israelite spies explored Canaan, they reported seeing tall inhabitants, possibly mistaken for Nephilim, instilling fear. It's possible that post-flood demons again mingled with humans, potentially leading to the emergence of more Nephilim. Some speculate that traits of the Nephilim could have been passed down through the family line of Noah's daughters-in-law. Nevertheless, these giants encountered in Canaan were defeated by the Israelites during their conquest. It wasn't just a one-time victory. The Israelites conquered these giants again later in their history. This emphasizes the idea that what appears impossible to us is always within the realm of possibility for God. Throughout the records of history, numerous accounts illustrate this profound truth. None more striking than the story of Samuel's journey to anoint a king from the house of Jesse. As the tale unfolds, we find Samuel, the respected prophet, embarking on a sacred mission bestowed upon him by the Almighty. His task was to anoint the chosen one among the sons of Jesse, who would ascend to the throne of Israel. Little did Samuel know that this journey would unravel the complex dynamics of divine selection, forever altering his understanding of how God perceives his creation. Upon arriving at the house of Jesse, Samuel saw Jesse's eldest son, Eliab. Towering in stature and possessing an aura of regal splendor, Eliab undoubtedly appeared to be the perfect example of kingship. In the eyes of Samuel, and perhaps in the eyes of any mortal, Eliab seemed the natural choice, the embodiment of kingly qualities that would command respect and admiration. Yet as Samuel extended his hand to anoint Eliab, a divine whisper echoed through his soul, revealing the profound truth: "Do not consider his appearance or his height, for I have rejected him." The Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. This important moment highlights how God sees beyond what's on the surface and understands what's truly in our hearts. It's in our hearts where our real selves are found, with all our qualities, good and bad. Here, God can see through all the outer layers and recognize our true intentions, our genuine purposes, and our steadfast faith. Despite Eliab's outward magnificence, it was not he whom the Lord had chosen to rule over Israel. Instead, the divine mandate led Samuel to Jesse's youngest son, David, a shepherd boy whose name had not even been brought forth in the initial selection. To the eyes of humanity, David was but a lowly shepherd, insignificant in the grand scheme of royal lineage. Yet in the eyes of God, David was a man after his own heart, destined for greatness beyond measure. In the unfolding of, David emerged as the anointed king of Israel. His reign marked by triumphs and tribulations, victories and defeats. Through it all, he remained steadfast in his devotion to the Almighty, embodying the qualities of courage, humility, and unwavering faith that endeared him to both God and man. Outro. What are your thoughts on the true story of Goliath and his brothers? Let us know your opinion in the comments below. And if you enjoyed watching this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel.